former trainer of the year, Virgil Hunter, and I really enjoyed listening to John, Charles, and Frank on Real Boxing Talk.
Recording in progress on the Ultimate Sports Network, live above ground. We are back in talking about
Frank Gordon.
It's Ichabod Crane all over again, I guess.
Frank the Bull Gordon.
Well, the Bull blank Gordon. Anyway, we're gonna go. We missed last week. I'm so sorry about that, folks. Good reasons for it, but there's not good reasons for it. So we'll move ahead, and let's start with what we didn't cover last week that we should have covered last week, and let's look at the crowning, the championing of Tyson Fury and how that plays out. So we've had a week to digest that entire thing. John, let's start with you. What happened, and we'll delve into that a little bit because I'm trying to remember who called what round and who was right and who was wrong.
Oh, the Tyson Fury fight?
Tyson Fury fight, yes.
Okay. I think it was, it ended in round 6, and I believe it was Mr. Farmer below me there that got the round right. I said 7, and you said 8, Frank, if I remember correctly. So,
as I said, I'm trying to remember who called what, and I don't recall. So
he's terrible. Charles, you're the crown. Yeah. You're crowned the champ for the predictions.
All right, now if we're actually going to give him credit, that's 3 weeks in a row. One of us got it right. So let's go that far. So, what happened to that fight that happened the way? We'll let Mr. Farmer describe it on his own. But what happened to that fight that was like, okay, this is what we expected. This wasn't what we expected.
Is that for me or for Charles?
Yeah, John, you start.
Oh, I start. Well,
yeah, we'll let him.
Remember, I wasn't exactly very nice to Dillian White, as you guys remember, and unfortunately, I think it proved me right. I mean, I never thought he was anything special. I thought he was an okay heavyweight. And what alarmed it was like kind of a weird thing. He starts the first round off as a southpaw, and I'm like, okay. Tyson Fury's looking at him like,
think that's going to mess me up?
You know, not for long, but he didn't do anything. You know, if he was able to do something like Terrence Crawford or Andre Ward used to do, or guys like that, and then he comes back orthodox in the next round. So it went just like it was. It was just a beatdown, and Fury, he's just a freak. You know, like we said the last time we did the show, Frank Charles. He's 6'9", 260 pounds, who can box, and he's too fast for these heavyweights that are 6'3", 240. They can't deal with his feints and his jab. He just kept sticking that jab out, and he had that uppercut in his back line. We know that's Dillian White's kryptonite, and so I wasn't sitting there on the edge of my seat. I was just typing away, and I looked down for a second. I looked up, and I went,
right, yep.
That was it. So it wasn't anything. It was a great punch, great uppercut, but it went along. He'd won every round as far as I was concerned. So it just went along the way that I thought it would. Very much like when he fought Chisora a few years ago. He just dominated from the beginning, and he stopped Chisora, and Chisora was frustrated. And you could see Dillian White was frustrated. And then after the fight, he's making all kinds of excuses and all this kind of stuff. It's like, oh, please. So, you know, he got his shot. He made more money than he's ever made, but it went along the way we thought. And then Tyson Fury said he's retiring, and he might really be serious this time.
Well, there's a recurring theme there we'll get to later, Charles, but there is that thought of if he were, why would he retire? Or I guess, why wouldn't he retire? I guess is a better question. What is there left for him to prove? What is there left for him to do other than making more money? Charles, what else can he do at heavyweight right now? He can go to what, super heavyweight? You know, at least if you wipe out the welterweights, you might be able to move up to middleweight. What can he do right now?
Well, I don't think that he has to do anything. I think he's proven that he's the best. Simply put, I mean, this bout, if you will, everybody tried to find other ways to make it more challenging, and it wasn't. He's shown you after defeating Wilder the way that he did that he's the best. And now all you want right now is a fantasy fight that we never really won. We never thought we would ever see, just to kind of, you know, for giggles, just to see if it would be any challenge to him. But I think he's being smart about it, and he's mentioned it. It's what he called Mayweather money. So he's like, I'll go back and now I'll fight exhibitions against guys that maybe are MMA fighters or just do things just to whatever to get in the ring. So people are calling it silly and they don't really take it serious, but they would pay. So what he's doing is with that logic is making himself more safer, protecting his health by getting in the ring with somebody that nobody really expects him to. And because it's another championship move. It's the type of move that Mayweather's making these exhibition bouts. So let's say you clear $100 million for an exhibition bout when somebody that you know is not going to hurt you. It's easy money compared to,
bad, right?
Yeah, you're fighting somebody else. So I think it's great logic if he doesn't want to fight anymore. But I said it before, I think there's a reason why he moved from across the pond to Las Vegas, because he knows there's opportunities. And somebody or himself has been talking to him about said opportunities. So I think that's what it is. I think he sees it, and it's a smart business move. So I think he might not be, he'll be retired from a boxing sense, unless there's, let's say, for instance, I said before, Anthony Joshua wins, Anthony Joshua comes back and they come up with this crazy money. I can see him coming back because that's the fight he always wanted. And it's going to be mega because they're going to have to pay a bunch of money to even entice him to come back. But until that happens, or because I think he's done with the Wilder saga, if you will, but I think he still can entertain a $72 million exhibition. So the world is his oyster. He can do whatever he wants to. And so to answer your question, he has nothing to prove. There's nobody out there that I can see. And again, unless you fight Joshua or you keep fighting these exhibition matches, you can fight those twice a year or once a year, and you can clear $100 million just by dancing around, prancing and, talking stuff. Hell, like I said, the more and more I listen to that man, the more and more I like him. I like anybody that can make money, do what they do. You even got to give it to Jake Paul now, because he only think he knew what the hell he did in regards to the promotion thing. But that thing that just happened recently, we're going to talk about soon, that was mega. And if he'll never fight another one, another fight, he might have a solid career in marketing. That's all I'm just saying, in promotion.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, bring on Thunderlips. I mean, that's where we're at, and I don't have a problem with that. The idea that if there's no one left to fight, why fight him?
Well, he could fight. I mean, if he could fight Usyk at the winner, like Joshua Usyk, he could fight Usyk if he really wants to fight. If he wants to, like Charles said, he said it perfectly. It's up to him. He can do whatever he wants to do. He could fight Joe Joyce if he really wanted to fight. He could eventually fight Daniel Dubois if he wanted to fight all these younger guys. Or Joe Joyce isn't young, but Dubois is. Right. It just depends on. He's not going to fight Joseph Parker. I don't think is their best friend. So he could do whatever he wants. I agree with Charles though. I think he would definitely come back for Joshua. Joshua wins because he's wanted that fight for years. He's called Joshua every name in the book for years.
Right.
So even his wife said that she could see him coming back for a unification fight, and that didn't necessarily mean Joshua. It could be Usyk. I mean, that's if he's bored. If he's bored and what he's doing now, he's not satisfied and he misses it. That's usually why they come back. They miss it. They can't live without it, Mm-hmm. But
he's going to have to wait for someone as opposed to dictating what's going on. He's going to have to wait for the unification. He's going to have to wait for Usyk. Johnson's going to wait. I don't know.
And he said something else really interesting too, Frank, Charles. He said he wanted to get out before it was too late, meaning he didn't want to lose. Mm-hmm. He didn't want to have what happened to him, what happened to Klitschko and these guys where they hung around too long and they ended up losing. He likes that undefeated record. You can't blame him. He made $30 million for that fight. So yeah, it's really up to the guy, and people are all upset that he wants to retire. And I totally get it. I understand. I mean, hell, if you're losing your desire and you really don't want to do it anymore and you can stop, why keep doing it? For the fans? What for? Do it, take care of you, man. And he's doing it.
Well, and that's part of the theme of what I think is going to have to go through this show. It's do what you do and do what you do well, but also we're talking about the frustrating part. So Charles, let's look at this. let's move to the fight that happened last weekend, and the idea that, you know, fortunately we didn't have anyone call that one because we maybe ruined our streak. But I don't know that, and you guys, again, I didn't get a chance to talk, so I don't know. I didn't think personally that Valdez would be that frustrated by what Shakur Stevenson did. Charles, go over why he was frustrated, what Shakur Stevenson did to him.
Well, I mean, I think that I said this before. I don't think enough people understand the skill set that Shakur Stevenson has. Right. I really don't. I saw something recently that another media type wrote that, oh, I don't really think we understand how great he is. Yeah, other people did. You just didn't know it. You slow to the game. You late to the game, and you can watch it. And I don't want to compare him to Floyd, but he has the mannerism and the skill set where he can be dominant in a position where he understands where he literally, they sit back and they watch you, they kind of perceive what you're doing. They kind of, pick at it and watch what you're doing. And then all of a sudden they dive into dissecting your strategy, which is what he did to Valdez. And Valdez is, you look at it, Valdez has showed us that he's capable of fighting at championship level. But Shakur Stevenson has this thing where he goes, I see your strategy and I trump you. And he steps into what he does. And once he starts to break you down, and he makes it a point where he had the one jab where he steps in, takes a step, and then just real quick. Then it's like, you're like, well, how can you directly throw a punch that the other guy you're fighting knows is coming, and there's nothing he can do to stop it?
Right.
That's something for you. It's no, when he's coming and he's gonna do this and he's gonna come and he's gonna do the same thing he did 5 times in a row, hit you the same way because that's one of your deficiencies. See, that's what a technician does. And I think John can go into the direct talk about how he did it directly. But what I'm saying is in regards to the standpoint of how he was able to transition, and he was meticulous in what he knew this guy's weaknesses was, and he literally broke him down. And that's what is hard, and like I said, he's a long way from ever being Floyd Mayweather. He's creating his own craft, he's creating his own niche. But when you're able to break a fighter down that has done some great things, and I'm gonna say this, one of my favorite words is this, I'll let you know how great guys are. When a fighter like Shakur Stevenson can take another tough guy or a champion or a former champion and make them look ordinary. When you make a guy that's been great look ordinary, that's a champion. That's the stuff legends to me are made of. Ask Canelo when he fought Floyd. He made him look ordinary. And you go, oh, he's boring. Well, it must be because he's running. No. He did something to make the guy that you love and, think is the greatest thing since sliced bread and was a champion, 2-time champion, look like, damn, I don't belong in the ring with this guy.
Well, I'm going to take it a step further. He made himself look ordinary because if you don't know what's going on, if you're not a boxing fan, it doesn't look like he did anything.
I don't know.
I'm serious. It's just like he's there. He paused the jab a little bit. And I know better than that. But what I'm saying is, it doesn't look like he's doing a lot because he's doing it so well. If you're on the outside looking in,
we'll agree to disagree on that.
John, go ahead and prove me wrong on that. Go ahead.
Well, that's why he's so damn good, Frank, because you can't even see it. You can't even see it. People that know. I'm going to brag about our show a little bit. How long have we been talking about Shakur being special, being so talented since the beginning, right? Yeah. So these Johnny come latelys, wow, I didn't realize he was that good. Really? Yeah. What were you watching for the last few years? You just didn't want to see what was going on? I get it a little, Frank, because he's like a great actor in the sense that he's so good that you can't catch him acting. You can't catch him fighting.
Exactly. Right.
He's that talented. But what he is really good at is range. I mean, that's a God-given ability. He sits there right there. He's right in the pocket. And you're probably thinking, he's right here. Why can't I hit him? Well, before you can even think about it, boom, boom. You know, and for such a young fighter to be so good at range, and he had that jab out there like Jack Johnson. He was even putting it on Oscar's head, which is kind of funny. He's just sizing him up, you know, okay, give me another inch. Bam. And he is to me the epitome of what he's not Floyd Mayweather yet or a Muhammad Ali as far as artistic ability yet, but he is what the sweet science is about. Because he boxes you, but then he'll stand right in the middle of the ring like he does now and fight you, but you can't do anything because the minute you think you're going to get going, he just cracks you with another shot and makes you think twice. So yeah, people can moan and groan about him all they want, and I'm afraid that he's going to have to do some things, get real mouthy and worse for people to pay attention. But think about it. He's had 18 fights. How many rounds has he even lost? I mean, going back to when he first started, of course, he's better than everybody, but he's been up in his competition every fight, right? He's won at least 11 rounds pretty much, and he did the same thing to Oscar Valdez that he does in all of his fights. He just dominates. And you were thinking about Oscar Valdez and Burchell, but remember the point we make, and Charles always makes, is styles make fights. But then again, fighters make fights. And Oscar Valdez would never beat Shakur Stevenson. I don't care how many times they fought.
No.
You know, he's just, I said in my article, he's just better. He's better, and that's the way it goes. He couldn't help it. I could tell that Valdez was like, well, I tried my hardest. I didn't chase him. I fought him for 12 rounds. I hit him with a couple of really solid left hooks right on the chin that knocked out Burchell. He just looked at me. So he's special. And just the thing that worries me about, not worries me, but frustrates me, is that I don't know if he's ever going to get the credit until he fights somebody that someone else thinks is really, really good. But he can't help it if these guys that are supposed to be champions like him can't give him the competition. He's a pretty big kid, you know, he's going to move up in weight. So it's going to be really exciting to watch what he does. You know, he can fight Haney, he can fight Tank, he can fight Lopez. I mean, that's going to be awesome to watch.
And Charles, what the point I was trying to make wasn't that he didn't do anything. It's like and John put it perfectly. You don't catch him doing anything. You know, the things that he does are so subtle, so skilled. So you're like, you know, let's flip it around. Now I'm watching Valdez trying to figure out what he can do, and I'm going off the last few times I've seen Valdez, because now once he came out and beat Burchell, said we've got to look at this guy a little bit differently, because that was a special fight. And I thought, well, this guy's got something going on. So he said he's going to sit down, he's going to be quick, he's going to be aggressive, he's going to come out and he's going to throw. Every time that he tried to do something in this fight, other than maybe a couple times, he had no place to go. He was smothered, he was cornered, there's nothing. He'd fight with throw a lead right, didn't get any place. He'd try and move, you know, lose some footwork, didn't go anyplace. Everything he tried was countered before he even tried it. And I don't think that, again, if you know what you're looking at, like yourself, you understand. But if you didn't know what you're looking at, you didn't see Stevenson doing anything to stop him from. You're looking at Valdez one, you need to try harder. No, there was nothing to try. It was just anything he tried. This is the frustration part. Was already taken care of before he tried it. That's the point I'm trying to make. So, is it possible? And we both have said, but he's not Mayweather yet. Mm-hmm. That's the Mayweather we saw later on moving up to welterweight. Is it possible he's as good as the Mayweather when Mayweather was in this weight class? At that particular point, at that particular age?
Maybe, but the one thing that is majorly different, and I guess is what you like as far as the style and how he goes about it, is the younger Mayweather had power. He would put you to sleep. He would 2 punches knock you down and knock you out. That's why people were giving Mayweather gave him more hell as he got older, because they wanted to see more power. But I think Mayweather with his power was some of the thing that secures the shots, secures landing and way he goes about his business. Mayweather probably would have put a couple people out. I mean, literally. So I think that's what it is. Mayweather probably was more of an exciting fighter because, and he made mistakes. Yeah, he made some mistakes that he wasn't the great defender early on, but his power. So I want to give it to Mayweather on that standpoint because why, as you mentioned before that, if people don't understand it and don't see what he's doing, it looks normal, then they're going to kind of go, well, like you said, he's not doing that much because we don't see it. But with Mayweather, when he's dropping you and and you see the block go down, you go, oh my God. Oh, then it's like, oh yeah, I can see that because it's an 8 counter and not
right. Boom, boom, done.
Yeah. So as you said, you take it from that perspective, the visualization of people being dropped and whatnot. I think I would say that too. But I think each of these fighters, as John mentioned, we talk about being special and great. They have fights along the way that make you go, yeah. And I think Mayweather had a couple of them, when he kept moving up. And I think this fight, even though he's a lot younger on his quest, this fight reminds me of the fight that Floyd had with Juan Manuel Marquez. And I was at that fight in person. And I watched it, and it reminded me there's nothing Juan Manuel Marquez could do. He was just like, and he never even contemplated a rematch. he just knew it. This guy's the greatest, one of the greatest. And I think Valdez will tell you the same thing. So with that being said, I think, I think he'll just say, you know what? And when a guy like that has been a champion and 2-time champion, we know what Marquez has done, probably the only dude to really bang with Pacquiao the way that he does. When a guy says that about his opponent, it tells you about the guy's greatness. Because we can sit here on the sideline, other people say what they think, but if a guy that is a legitimate champion, right, gets in there and tells you afterwards, yo, man, this dude is phenomenal.
Don't need to do that.
Yeah, if he gives him that type of praise, that lets you know that gives you all things you need to know right there because they know what it's like to be champions. They know what it's like to fight at the highest level. And if you get that type of praise from an amazing fighter like that, what else is there?
So, John, what else happens now? I mean, is this your first? Well, I got the belt. I proposed to my girl in the ring. Blah, 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 blah. Now it's time to move up and challenge, or is it solidify that? Because, as we said, he's a big kid, but should he grow to the next few weight classes? Should that be the thing? Yes.
I think so, because as that very classy, cantankerous older gentleman from Las Vegas said about Stevenson fighting a couple other 130 pounders, he said, F that. We're not wasting our time with the IBF champion. Nobody in this room can name the IBF champion. I went, he's right. I can't name the IBF champion. So you don't have to rush things. Let him fight the guy that fought Valdez before that Robson, whatever his last name is. A lot of people thought he beat Valdez. Let him fight him because he's a top ranked guy. So let him fight him, get another win under his belt, and then we'll see. Because Stevenson just made the weight right on the number. So I don't know how long you wait until he moves up to 135. You got Haney and Kambosos coming up. You got Ryan Garcia. And he beat the crud out of Ryan Garcia. I'll say it right now. He will. And sorry, Carlos, but that made me think of Carlos Palomino. He texted me during the Valdez fight with Stevenson. He goes, why isn't he jabbing more? Why isn't he jabbing more? And I'm disappointed. And I said, because he can't touch him, Carlos. That's the thing, you just don't want to be crazy, and you want to make sure that you don't have to take it too fast, but not too slow. And then if you're Bob Arum, who, can turn on you as quickly as anything, you better start making sure you draw fans, because that's going to be Shakur Stevenson's marketing team's biggest challenge, is selling him. And that happens when you're that good. Again, like that happened to my guy that I always talk about every week in Oakland, Andre Ward. He couldn't even sell out of the arena in Oakland because everybody always said it's a given. He's another one who never lost rounds,
Yeah,
really
right,
rarely
right.
lost rounds. And you're like, okay, so you're being penalized because you're so good. See, I don't get that. I don't understand that. You don't criticize, you cherish somebody that's that good in a particular sport. Is that how we handle it in baseball with a great baseball player? Do we boo him because he didn't hit a home run the first time up? I mean, come on, man. Boxing
right.
is just, the fans are just ridiculous at a lot of times. But like I said, I think you make a defense of 130, maybe another one. I mean, if he wants to fight my guy Navarrete, that would be fun because he's relentless. He would be right in, at least try, Shakur's grill. And that would be something that he hasn't really faced. And he's taller than Shakur, and his defense is iffy. So Shakur would probably pick him apart and stop him by round 6 or 7, but it would be an interesting fight. So it just depends on what you want to do. You know, you can just keep, based on his frame, Frank. Yeah, he looks like he might even make it up to welterweight one of these days. So it looks very possible.
But didn't we think, and again, we didn't have a chance to talk about this last week, didn't we think that Valdez would be busier? Didn't we think that he would try and get off? That's what I thought, because going by what I've seen him in the last few fights, I'm like, he's going to be explosive. That's what we've seen. And he was just shut down. Charles, am I missing that? Or is it because it was taken away from him, not because he didn't do anything? It was just taken out of his, well, here's your toolbox. You're not using that.
Yeah, no, I can see why people would say you thought Valdez was going to be busier. But I think, again, it comes back to the class of Shakur Stevenson. It just shows you. I mean, right. you and I have went back and forth. We know when you were talking about your boy Gotti fight Mayweather, and you were telling me what Gotti was going to do. I was like, dude, he ain't got a chance in hell.
Frank.
And I was telling you, I was like, Frank, nah, bro. He's like, what? I was like, dude.
And there's here, right.
Yeah, and that's it. It's just a difference in level of talent. And it doesn't mean that Gotti was not. I love Gotti. I love him. He was always fighting and he wouldn't quit. But when you put two guys in there together that are just, it's a different level. And as much as people love Pacquiao, Marquez showed you he was no chump because he gave Pacquiao everything he wanted every time. Where the Mayweather thing was a whole different thing. But I think with Shakur, you mentioned about Valdez, he wanted to. He tried. He didn't come in there thinking, whatever. I just gotta wait because I'm so I'm enamored with his skill set. He came in ready to fight. He had a strategy. He knew what he said he was gonna do to Shakur because Shakur had not faced anybody like that. He was a champion. And then finally it was like, got in there, he was like, well, damn, this is not different than what I thought. This is not the this is not the boxing session or whatever. We're not sparring, right? And I think that's how it was. So I think it was just a different level, man. That's what it really came down to.
Well, we've kind of touched on it. Here's what I think. This is the Pernell Whitaker of where we're at right now. That you're going to win fights by not fighting. And you know what I mean by that. I'm not saying you're not fighting. What I'm saying is you're going to win fights by not being aggressive, by not going out after people, by being defensive, being quicker, and being faster. And that may not be palatable to the people who want you to go out, like you said, when younger Mayweather was like, pop, pop, boom, it's over with. And I thought about what you said about that, and that was kind of the same thing I saw with Roy Jones. It's not just that it was powerful, but the power came from the speed and the unpredictability of what was going to happen. Suddenly, it's like he just threw a combination that got you so off balance that you just got knocked out. Now, what I don't see from Stevenson and what I saw from Pernell Whitaker, it's like, I'm not going to win that way, and I don't care. I'm going to shut you down, and you're not going to be able to fight me or fight the way you want to fight. And the De La Hoya fight, notwithstanding, I won't even get into that. But the idea of I'm going to be so prepared on my end for what you do that I'm going to laugh at you when you try and do something. Not saying Stevenson was laughing at Valdez, but you know where I'm going. John, is that where he's got to work on being marketable? He has to work on the Bob Arum thing. He's going to have to say, I'm going to have to take some more chances in a fight so people want to watch me fight.
Well, somebody did compare him to Pernell Whitaker online, I saw, and I'm like, You see, I think Shakur is going to grow into the if you want to say more exciting fighter. I think he's exciting enough myself, but I think he's actually transitioning to a sense to that guy. If you saw in his last fight when he stopped Herring, he stopped him, he beat him up, he did everything to him. He was more aggressive because he got criticized. And he stood pretty much right in the center of the ring against a very powerful puncher in Oscar Valdez, 23 knockouts, 30 wins, no losses. So he took a couple of hard shots, like I said. So I think he's going to take some more chances, even though he doesn't really need to on the boxing sense. But since a lot of people always remind me, look, John, it's all entertainment. This is an entertainment. We're not entertained by this dominant fighter. He's going to have to do that a little bit more to make some of the masses happy. And it's true. He doesn't pack the pop that Floyd Mayweather did. The young Floyd Mayweather, a pretty boy Floyd, he would come in there and he'd take your head off. I mean, I can't help it, Frank. I take this with all the affection that I can muster here, but I don't really understand how you thought that Gotti could, because this is coming from a paisan here. And when they signed that fight, I went like, this is exactly what I did. I went, because there's just no way. Maybe he could beat him in a basketball game, because Gotti was supposed to have a pretty good shot. But in the boxing ring, with the way he fought, oh no. So yeah,
I'll tell you. Here's what I thought.
Okay.
Here's what I thought. Charles is still going to laugh at it because it's like, because at that point, in order, and I thought, to beat Mayweather, you needed to be able to be down and dirty, a little gritty, but also have some style. Also have some boxing ability as well. That he seemed to be the guy that could do that. Now, 8 seconds of the fight, went, oh boy, was I wrong.
8 seconds, about right.
But you're like, it's like he could have roughed him up some. He could have made it into a Pier 6 brawl, and he could have boxed with him. That was my mindset. Again, we watched in the books that you wrote with the trilogy with Mickey Ward. We fell in love with the guys in that fight and not the context of the guys in that fight. We blew it up to be bigger than what it was for good reason. And we went, these guys, it's like watching Greg Haugen. And you're thinking,
and Vinny Pazian.
Yeah. Excuse me. These guys are legitimate boxers. They're legitimate world title holders. It was the tough man competition. That's what it was. So, but you don't think that in the context of what you're seeing. And you have to take them out of that context and put them in with the other guys and go, ooh, oops.
Yeah, because what worked with Mickey Ward, and no offense against Mickey, who I love, obviously, we all do. Mayweather was not Mickey Ward.
Right. Exactly.
Mayweather was too sharp, too fast, too young. I mean, Mickey Ward is like Gotti. That's what Gotti said. I ran into my twin. It's like Jason too. So that's what made their fight so competitive between the two of them. Mayweather is just a level above. That's all.
Yeah,
that's the way it is.
And as Charles has stated a number of times in the last few years, but especially in the last few weeks, it's like styles make fights. And if you can't discern that as you're watching, then you should learn something when you're watching it and understand. Hopefully. And we'll make the segue here in a second, but this is where you look at it and go, all right, how much better is Tyson Fury than the rest of the heavyweights? Sometimes you can't tell that until they get in the ring, but sometimes just go, I don't see anyone's going to be as big as him and as skilled as him and has the chin that he has. Okay, so that pretty much makes it simple. Shakur Stevenson's the same way. It's like, I don't know that anyone's going to be as relaxed in the ring. You mentioned being able to gauge distance and be able to control the ring. It's like, there's no one that's going to be as relaxed as him as going to say, I got this under control, and I'm going to take away your weapons before you even get to fire them. I don't see that right now. But here's an idea. Will that change this weekend? Segue. Here, will it change this weekend? Charles, we're looking at something that's known against something that maybe we don't know about. I think we know who Canelo is. I don't think Canelo is going to surprise us with anything. Is that safe to assume?
I don't think he's going to surprise us with anything, but I mean, I understand when you think about, you think you don't want to just give this away where, like Bivol is not going to be a challenge. And I've read stuff now where what he was before and he has a puncher's chance and all like that too. But I'm like, I'm going to need to see it. And I'm not trying to be funny, but when you watch the last couple of fights of Bivol, whatnot, you saw him beat up Pascal. Okay, that's all well and good. But when you get in there and you know what Canelo's been through and who he's fought and them things of that nature, I'm going to need to see what Bivol proved to me. It's like we talking about, everybody talking about, well, Dylan White had a puncher's chance. I need to see it. I'm so tired of that. I mean, we're talking about the back end of it. Canelo has proven that he is ready and moving forward. And I guess my point on this, they have strategically, and this is just my opinion, they have strategically selected individuals, particularly, I think this is another one, where they think that they see something, and Canelo, even though he'll be the smaller guy, he'll be able to see something where he can overtake this guy and win the match convincingly. That's just my opinion. And I might be totally wrong, and they say Floyd did the same thing, but I think they see something with this guy. Bivol does not, he didn't have a lot of, he has some fights, but didn't have a lot of fights. So now you put him in that position and it's like, here we go again. And they're strategically doing that. It's nothing wrong with Canelo. Canelo's fighting his fight, right? But I just see that. And I mean, you keep throwing them up, because if that was the case, I'll throw this last question real quick. I'm answering the question with a question, which is wrong. But if that was the case, if you really wanted to prove that you were the guy and the money's just, you can get more money too, why wouldn't you take on a Charlo and a Benavidez? Because everybody knows when it comes down to the power and the risk of you getting hurt, why wouldn't you do that instead of fighting Triple G, a 99-year-old Triple G? That's all I'm saying. And he can do what he wants to. I'm just a dude. I'm just some dude that, lucky that Frank even put me on the show. But if you really want to prove to the people that you the guy, or they say in the neighborhood, you the MF, you put it on the line.
Well, okay, let's look at and I agree with that. I think that, if you're not fighting the people that have been bandied about to fight, then why did you fight? Why are you fighting this guy? Now, let's look at this guy, John. Let's look at this guy. What are we going to see from him that we don't know? Now, I just looked. He's been a pro for 8 years and he's fought 19 fights. Is that right? So I'm not a great math person, but that means he's not very active to me. 2 fights a year. And I'm looking at who he's fought. I'll give you Joe Smith Jr. I'll give you the unanimous decision against John Pascal. I don't see another name on here that went, oh, yeah, I remember. Oh, that would have been, Umar Salmanov. Who? What? Huh? I mean, granted, it's in another weight class that we don't usually follow. But what is Bivol going to give us or show us or make us think of that's going to make us think there's a possibility?
Well, I've seen him fight 3 or 4 times. He's a good fighter. He is. He used to knock people out. He doesn't seem to be stopping anybody the last few years. He's a good fighter. He'll give Canelo issues in the beginning just because he's quite a bit taller, as we saw from the pictures, and he's got a good solid jab. And Canelo said something very interesting a couple days ago. He said patience is the key. So that tells me that he's going to take his time in there, and that means that the fight is probably going to be very close for a number of rounds, because he, like we were saying about Oscar Valdez, that's kind of, Canelo's kind of a counterpuncher. So sometimes when you're a counterpuncher, like Terrence Crawford, for example, you can fall behind on the cards. And I'm expecting, Bivol is a good fighter. I mean, I don't know if he's necessarily getting the respect he deserves. He's a Russian, I was going to say Ruski. He's the old term. He's a Ruski hell with him. But he's got some skills, and I would think that he has a plan. He's a smart kid. So I like I said, I don't expect him to win, but I do expect him to be competitive. If you remember when Canelo fought Kovalev, and Kovalev was past it at that point, and he boxed him and moved around. It was very close going to the 11th round. Kovalev was even winning, and I think Bivol is a better boxer. And Canelo hasn't exactly been blowing people out, if we think about it. I mean, even Caleb Plant, sure, he was winning, but he wasn't doing like Shakur Stevenson does. He wasn't dominating pretty much every round. So in that respect, I think the fight will be relatively close. And you're speaking about Bivol, what he's done, Frank. I think this is like the fight we're going to talk about soon. I imagine the big one on Madison Square Garden last weekend. If Bivol is ever going to be what he can be, it's going to be this Saturday, because this is his best chance to say, okay, I beat this guy that nobody can beat. I upset the whole thing. It's a huge upset, right? So this is his shot to do this. And does he have a chance? Yes, I think he's a live underdog. Will he probably win? No, but I think he definitely, based on what I've seen, he can box, and it'll be probably very technical in the first few rounds, and giving more people reason to complain, like they're prone to do.
And this is going to be one of those fights where I think at the end we're going to go, oh, okay, it happened. We've been waiting for Canelo to fight. Now let's move on. But I'm going to ask this question to both of you, because John kind of hinted at it. Maybe I'm not sure. There's another fight that we haven't had a chance to talk about, that we don't usually get into these things because it's just not the nature of how people talk about fights, unfortunately. But we both mentioned, and again, we took a week off. Charles, give me a little thing, because I don't think we're going to get much out of Canelo and Bivol until it's over. But something that just occurred. Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano. How groundbreaking was this fight, and where do we go from there after?
And this is usually John's thunder, so I'm gonna try to do it. I'm gonna try to start a little bit, but I mean, John has been talking about Katie Taylor since we've been on this show, and I only saw her maybe once, and I was like, okay, but I had seen Amanda Serrano, and I've watched her do the Jake Paul exhibitions or whatever hell he was doing, and I knew how she would come to the table. And I was like, well, if Katie Taylor is all that John says she is, then this should be one hell of a fight. And I want to tell you, this is fight of the year. It doesn't matter, men, women, whatever. It is.
Doesn't make
whatever. Whatever. It is fight of the year. They both came in, no nonsense, and they were throwing. And I heard about the great Katie Taylor, and she did not disappoint. But the way that Amanda Serrano went in there and went after her, I was like, my goodness. Katie Taylor had to say to herself, damn, I've never been hit like this. I never seen anybody come at me like this. And eventually, Katie Taylor got herself together and kind of, they took advantage of the situation when I think Serrano got tired. I think she had her in a position where she really could have went for the knockout, but I think she let her off the hook, in like round 5, round 6. But Katie Taylor's a veteran, and she showed you why she's a champion, and she backed up everything. But to answer your question, it was groundbreaking. One, because there was a lot of hype around it, and everybody's talking about it's on the same night as Shakur Stevenson. It sold out the Garden. People were going nuts. It was crazy in there. I was like, and then I was like, oh, okay, I'm seeing all of the hype, walking in, and Katie Taylor walking in slow. I was like, okay, are they really going to do this thing? And buddy, when they got in there, that among Sarah, I still love her. I don't care win, lose, or draw. Serrano came in there and she blah, 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 and she fought her fight. Katie Taylor came back, took care of the situation. It was epic because of what they stood for and what they put out. We always talk about we want action in boxing. They left no stone unturned. You saw their faces. They both were bleeding. They both come up and they put it down. It was one of the best boxing spectacles and hype I've seen in a long time. I was so excited. I didn't, after a while, we got to about round 7. I was like, I couldn't, screaming like, is this really happening? And I was happy for them because this is what we've been wanting. I was so happy for them because it more than lived up to the hype. They came in there, they banged, they represented one another, and they showed you that if you spent your money on this, you did not waste your money. And we might want to run it back. But yeah, I thought that was amazing from that standpoint. That was fight of the year. And I'll say this as I get out of here on just one last thing that I thought was an amazing fight for 22. But I'm going to say this because it's not being biased, but that was a damn draw, bro. She deserved better than that. That's all I'm saying. That's a draw. That's all I'm saying. It was a draw. That's just me. I'm out.
I'm not even going to ask a question. Just break it down for me.
Well, first of all, I'm going to totally agree with Charles. I thought the fight was a draw. I did. I was, right. I've been raving about Katie for years, but I was so impressed how she dug down, how she found herself in around round 7. And Amanda was tired, I think, but Katie she found that extra level. She got her second win, whatever you want to call it. She's tough, and determined, and the concern was she was fading in her last few fights, but here she was primed, and she had to hustle. She had to do everything. In that last 30 seconds, they were just standing in the middle of the ring, just throwing bombs. I was like,
oh, right.
So it was most fights don't live up to the hype. We know that. How often do they live up to the hype? Almost never. Yeah. This one lived up to it. And actually, when going into it, I believed it would, because these two, they don't waste time calling each other names or doing anything like that. They're totally classy, totally professional, and they were totally classy and professional afterwards. And I wouldn't have been upset if Amanda Serrano got the decision at all, because the fight was that close. The rounds were that close. I just didn't want to lose her. I don't consider Amanda a loser at all, but I just thought a draw would have been the decision, because the fight was, Katie was a little ahead, and then Amanda, oh my God, in the 5th round, I was like Charles was saying, I was like, oh my, I've never even seen her knocked down, and she was hanging on. She was hurt.
Yeah.
She was glassy eyed, and I'm like, she's bleeding. Gosh. And then she just blew me away by the guts that she has. Yeah. That she found another level to dig down. And I mean, these are fighters. They're fighters. That's all there is to it. There's no quit in them. And then she out hustled her the last 3 rounds. And so that, but you can't forget what happened before that. So I wasn't surprised that she got the decision, whatever you want to say. It was judged at one of the scores, like 96, 93 or whatever, was like, what? What are you watching?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But that's typical of boxing nowadays, or always. I don't know why that is, but it was a fabulous fight. I agree. It was a fight of the year. It doesn't matter what gender they are. It was an amazing experience. Give and take, back and forth. It was like a roller coaster ride, up and down. Oh, if you're pulling for Katie, oh, she's winning. Oh, Amanda's got her now. Serrano's got it. Oh, she backed off just a little bit, and here comes Katie. So it was one of those kind of fights where they were both. I mean, we always like to say, leave it all in the ring. They left it all in the ring.
Yeah, they did. Right. Now, Charles, there's an idea here of, you said run it back. Do we run it back or not run it back based on a few criteria? One, it's going to be a great fight again because it was a great fight the first time. That's an easy assumption to make. So yeah, we should have it again. But what does it do for a couple of things? One, for the participants. If they're 1 and 2, and that's what we've been saying, yeah, a little cash, but if they're 1 and 2, you might as well just fight them again, right? Does that make sense? One question. Second question, what does it do for the sport of women's boxing to run it back? Is it the idea of, well, this was good for us, or now we need to find the next person, and maybe Serrano finds the next person, Katie Taylor finds the next person, then we have an elimination to come back and do something like that. And the third question, you can answer all of them or none of them, it doesn't matter to me. Is it something where we look at it and say, aha, we found something, and as the powers that be or want to do, we're going to run this crap into the ground and make as much money off as possibly can? Answer 1 or 2 or 3, or I don't care, and John, chime in whenever you want.
Yeah, running it back, it just makes sense to run it back. But I think deep down inside, Katie Taylor might be looking at that going like, I said that. But you know what? That might have been, it might have been her best fight. It might have forced her, that she was challenged that much, to go, you know what? But she's a gamer. I can't see Katie Taylor going, nah, I don't want it. But somebody else might be going, you sure? You know, I'm just saying. Because yeah, you see what she did to you. But I think Serrano would take it in a heartbeat, because I know she saw that, she thought that if she had more stamina, you could just tell the way that she was kept, her fighting style was coming at it. She was just too wide open. She's taking too many chances. She could have went safe at the end, right? She probably would have won it by being safe and just taking the time and not engaging, but that's not who she is. She came to win, and I think that was there too. But yeah, I think they'll probably run it back. It's too much money not to run it back. I don't know about that Ireland piece though. I mean, I don't see Serrano doing that one, because I think she can be like, yeah, that's cool, but nah, we ain't look, you gonna, she would do it, but it had to be a bunch of money for her to do that. But I think too, though, that in regards to the sport, it's going to force the sport to, they're going to have to get more, they're going to have to find a way, if they can, to get more engaging matchups. Because I think what they've been doing is putting out the champions from Clarissa Shields to whoever, fighting against people that are nowhere near their level. And sometimes it's not the promoter's fault. It's just the way the sport goes. If somebody's not on that level. But if you really want to be taken seriously, you're going to have to find more young ladies that are on the same level, even if they may not be the best. So we have more engaging and more interesting fights. I think that's it, because you can't keep putting out the fights of people being so dominant and expect men, particularly men, to be excited about it. The one thing about this fight that was amazing, because we heard all the hype and they delivered. They gave it to you all. It wasn't over. You didn't say, oh my God, Katie Taylor's killing her. You're like, no, Amanda got in there, banged her. It was must see. But I don't, that's last question. I don't think, as far as running to the ground, nah, that's how special it was. You can try that, but you'll be doing both of them a disservice if you keep trying to hype up and build off of what they did. Make it special, maybe go back twice. They'll probably fight again like that too, so they both deserve it, and maybe take some time off. But I guess what I'm saying is you have set my last point here will be, you have set the level, right, for greatness. If you want, women's boxing that night was totally respected. So if you wanted to stay there, you can't come down here with this BS. As much as I love Layla Ali, I don't know if she was ever challenged. I don't know that. I mean, the trainer, what was it? Wolf. And Wolf. I would love to see that fight. They could have fought. But you cannot, as a promoter, give us BS. You got to find ways to get these. I saw a couple of young ladies that were up saying they were prepared to fight, whatever. You got to keep bringing us that talent, level of talent, in order for it to be respected. And I think that's something that the promoters, now that you got us here, you know, every time I come to your shop and I'm eating your candy, you can't, you know, drop it down. You got to keep my level up here,
right.
Until that's what you got to deliver.
Well, John, now since you are our resident analyst and expert, is there another group or select fighters that can say, now we can make this work? Because now that we've broken through this barrier of no one wanting to watch, or you know what I mean, but wanting to watch the women's fights, we sold out the garden. We did this, we did that. Now we've cracked through. Who is next on the wave that says, now let's capitalize on that? Or are they there yet?
No, see, I'm more hesitant too that the future is huge for this. This was a great springboard, but the problem is there's just not a lot of depth in the pool there as far as the lady boxers go. There are some that are real good, like Clarissa Shields is real good. She is so polarizing and so disliked by so many people. She needs an opponent. And she's got a fight coming up with Savannah Marshall, which is actually kind of intriguing since Savannah managed to beat her in the amateurs, which of course can mean absolutely nothing. But the key is having somebody that can really make you fight. And in this case, you had two Katie Taylor and Serrano. They were circling each other for years. They had their eyes on each other for a long time. Katie got all the promotion. She had Eddie Hearn. Amanda had to fight her way up from nothing to get to this point. So that made it even more intriguing. But if you look at the division, the weight divisions, there's just not a lot of fighters, that make people go, ooh, I want to see that. The second one is Clarissa, and she needs, like I said, she needs Savannah Marshall to either. I don't think she's going to beat her, but I think she needs to give her a really hard fight to make the interest. There will be interest because Clarissa will promote. She's a very good promoter, and she'll be out there saying a lot of bad things. Now they'll go the other way. They won't be totally classy like Katie Taylor and Amanda. Clarissa will say all kinds of things. Savannah Marshall's already said all kinds of things. So it's going to be a grudge match through and through. So the problem is, it's like how can I compare? It's like an instant gratification. We got that with Katie Taylor and Serrano. We got our instant gratification. It was better than we all thought. In a sense, I think it met the hype and then some. The problem is what's going to happen next. And that's what I know you're asking, Frank. And in this case, that's a big problem. Clarissa Shields and Savannah Marshall fight in a few months, I think, or maybe longer. I'm not sure. They don't even have a date yet. And that one would be considered next. They have a number of fighters in England that I've seen. Shannon Courtney, who fights, and Bridges, Ebony Bridges from Australia. Interesting, not nearly at that level. Jessica McCaskill, who from Chicago, who beat Cecilia Brækhus. She's good. She's gritty. She's tough. She would give either of them. She fought Katie and lost to her a few years ago. It was tough. So there are some, but you see, it's a very small. It's almost like the heavyweights. There's only so many fighters, so you have to find some new talent. And there's a few, but it's Charles made a good point. A lot of it's matchmaking and really where the levels are. The other champion that night, I can't remember her name, the cruiserweight champion. She fought someone who was another, or super middleweight or whatever, another champion, and it was a one-sided drubbing.
Right.
And that's the problem, is that the skill levels aren't very equal, not even very close. Now, of course, that happens in boxing, but not when you have both champions. When you have both champions, even though we were just talking about Shakur and Oscar Valdez, but usually the skill level is somewhat close. In this case, it was over in the first minute. Again, it was one of these where it's like, oh, well, this is obvious what's going to happen here. So they have to build off this momentum, and that's going to be the challenge, because there are a lot of people who don't like women's boxing, and that's another issue. And you're not going to have Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano around much longer. They're both. Katie's 35, Amanda's 33. I think Katie's getting close to the end, to be honest. I think I actually agree with Charles. She'll take the fight because she's that way, but she might have emptied her tank on this last one, because 300 amateur fights, 21 professional fights. She's been doing it since she was 7 years old. I mean, that's got to, at some point, your body's just going to go, nope, I can't do this. One more fight, and that's it. I would think, if I was her, with Serrano in Ireland, they'll probably get it. So what happens then? We had that lull from Christy Martin, and then we had Lala Ali, who was wonderful. I like watching her. And then after that, what did we have? Think about it. We had Clarissa, we had Ann Wolfe, right? And I'll never forget that knockout with that big tall lady that she knocked out in the first round. That was awesome.
Tennessee, yeah.
Right. And so there's going to be, in boxing, it's always like this, but summing up, the problem is there's just not a lot of depth in the women's boxing. And as much as we might pull for it and support it, and then the last point, Frank, the 2-minute or 3-minute rounds, that's a big discussion that a lot of people feel like they wanted to go 3 minutes, but WBC said no way. The WBC will not allow it. Should they be allowed to go 3 minutes? I think so. I mean, if you're just looking at them as fighters, they should have 3-minute rounds, but the WBC is afraid somebody's going to get hurt. And so that's might be another debate for another show. But what's going to be interesting is what happens next. And they have to build off this, and it's going to be hard.
Well, and that you got to the point where I wanted to get to, and a lot quicker than I wanted to get to it, or as I was going to get to it. And that's a perfect thing. When we're looking at women's sports, and this is maybe another show for another channel we have on Ultimate Sports Network, but the idea being, if you want the world to watch what you do, it's okay for it to be women against women. That's fine. But I think the rules have to be the same. Tennis, 3 out of 5 or 5 out, or 3 out of best 3 out of 5 or best 2 out of 3? Well, if you're playing best 2 out of 3, you've taken away the drama and all the stuff that happens with the men's play the best 3 out of 5. Okay, WNBA, is the season shorter? Is the game shorter? Is the quarter short? You got to make it the same thing. You know, hockey, soccer, the whole thing. Play by the same rules. If you're going to play by the same rules, we can't nitpick about it. We've eliminated that thing. Okay, that's it. You know, softball. Are they playing 7 innings or 5 innings? Play a 9-inning game like the guys do playing baseball. If you do that, then we can look at strategy and do things like, okay, they've got an opener, they got a closer, they've got this, they've got that. It's the same thing. What we're looking at here, a 2-minute round versus a 3-minute round. That's a big difference. And if it's a safety thing, I understand that. However, we're trying to get them to be competitive in the same manner. We're treating them the same as far as how they get into the arena, you know, how we're going to sell out. You know, we're selling out Madison Square Garden. We didn't say, hey, come to a fight that's not the same as another fight. You came to see the fight. So
yeah, Franklin, real fast. If there had been a 3-minute round in round 5, Katie Taylor would have went down. She would have went down.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
no doubt. She might even got stopped. She would have definitely went down though, because she was close a couple of times.
Right.
So that's all I wanted to interject.
No, but that's perfect. That's what we want. The idea of, you know, when we try and compare a 15-round bout to a 12-round bout, and this guy, you know, in the championship rounds, you know, that's where, and Charles and I have done this in different sports, but when you're comparing different eras and different rules, things change that way. You know, if he comes back in the 14th and wins it, well, if there's no 14th, he wouldn't have won it. You know, so it's kind of the same thing, just what you mentioned. A 3-minute round versus a 2-minute round. That's a big difference. And that's the thing where we said, that's when we check off the list and go, women's boxing is exciting, but let's eliminate the buts. And I think that, and Charles, jump in here real quick if you want to. I think when we're looking at running this back, they have to run it back. Because as John mentioned, there's not another fight out there that could possibly be as interesting in this one. So they've got to run it back. My concern is they may have to run it back 2 or 3 or 4 times. And I know that's not what we want. I know that's not what we usually see. But if the next one is as good as this one, and then the third one in the trilogy is as good as the first 2, might as well keep at it if no one else steps to the fore. And as John mentioned, there's no one else ready to step to the fore. So what do we do?
Yeah, well, I don't think he's gonna go past 2. I mean, John mentioned about the age, particularly with Katie Taylor, and then it would have been different if she was dominant from the whole thing. I mean, Serrano is a bad customer. And she really she really tested Katie Taylor. You know, it's not something you walk away and go, oh yeah, I'll be back next week. No, she gave all her all to go against and defeat Serrano. So I think we might be lucky to get one more. That's what they do. And I think it's going to take something a lot more physically out of her to fight that again, because Katie Taylor knows she's not going to be able to walk away unscathed, right? So she's going to deal with some punishment, but she's also going to be dealt some punishment. One last thing for me on this though, and I understand trying to be like the guys in 3 minutes and stuff, but I'm gonna tell you, until they get to the point where they show you that they're ready for that, and I don't know if they are ready as far as they train for 3 rounds, right? I thought it was a hell of a fight. I thought about the 3 rounds, and you know, like, okay, she probably could have got knocked out. But until we are received, it is proven that they're ready to go that long, when they fight again, keep it 2 rounds, bro. Because it was so action-packed.
Well, there's that, yeah.
It was so action-packed that it was like, damn, that's over? Let's give me another one. It's like, it was so, I mean, they were able to go at it. And granted, you go, maybe Serrano would have knocked her out. Okay, but she knew you only got 2 minutes. So you got to go. You got to do what you got to do. These are the restrictions. And I get it, trying to compare it to men's, and that's cool. If you want to work that way, work into it. You know what I mean? Work into it. But as far as that's concerned, if they run it back, then give me the 2 rounds, bro. Because I want all that action again. I mean, the 3, maybe you be like, well, was she tired this time? Because clearly the last point on this is, to me, and we can say going another round, but probably the last 3 rounds, Serrano was exhausted, man.
Right.
And if you add another round, she might be exhausted in round 3. I'm just saying.
Another minute to the round. Yeah.
Yeah. So give me the 2 and just give me quality. I'll run with it. And granted, we should. You can keep that quality all you want to. Give me 8 strong 2 rounds, right? Eight strong rounds, or 2 rounds or whatever. 8 2-minute rounds, and let me roll with that. I'll take the 16 minutes and get the hell out. You want to bounce out and try to be all equal in Title IX, I'm going to let you roll with that. Give me 16 strong minutes or whatever. It meant 24 minutes, and I'm cool with that because I want the action. You can get into the logistics of Olympic boxing, whatever the hell you're trying to do for the Hall of Fame. You roll with that. Give me quality product, and that's all I need.
All right. We're gonna close it on this because we are in the month of May. This is the fight of the year, so to speak, because of timing, not just because of the fight, because of timing. This is how we look at things. At this point of the year, John, right now, just off the top of your head, fight of the year so far.
The one we just saw, it is. I mean, nothing else really comes to mind. There's been some pretty interesting fights. The one we were talking about, Fury and White, obviously not even in that ballpark, but there's been a few, but none of them are popping into my brain like this because we haven't seen this kind of action. I mean, this was 10 rounds of sustained action with some incredible dust-ups and flurries in round 5, round 6, round 10. I mean, we don't see that. And the other thing is real fast, Frank, is good point too, again, by Charles, and Amanda Serrano would have to change her style in a sense because she fights so hard for 2 minutes. She's going to have to fight that hard for 3 minutes every round.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. So someone would say, look, you got to pace yourself a little bit or you're going to be dead by the 3rd round. And that would mean that she fight differently and then it wouldn't be the same. So maybe they need to do a gradual shift to that. But yeah, this was the fight of the year to this point. Again, I'm old. My brain doesn't restore that information like it once did about some of the fights we've seen this year, but I can't think of one that comes close as far as not only the event and the hype, but the fight. And when you get all 3 of those things, then that's it.
All right, Charles, same question. What do you think? Are you old enough to recall anything else that's happened in this year?
I may not be, but I agree with him 100%. I saw nothing like that. The action, the hype. I was so happy for the sport. I was happy for these ladies, the way they came at it and they lived up to the hype. I think got to a point where the promoters didn't know what the hell to say. Eddie Hearn kept saying, Katie's been great forever. She's like the greatest thing. Okay, yeah, but let's tell the truth, bro. Tell the truth. You thought that was a draw too. So he didn't know what to say. And Paul was like, yeah, it should have been a draw. So when your promoters are perplexed, they don't know. They were surprised at the way he played out and to see the stars and see everybody just so excited for them. And the way that the ladies showed class and talked about wanting some equality for their sport and how they were 2 champions and they deserved all of that, selling out the Garden. It wasn't just some joke. That clearly was fight of the year. They deserved everything they received, man. Everything. And I say that I've been watching boxing a long time. I even had a buddy of mine that we were watching MMA one time and these 2 ladies were banging. He's like, oh man, I can't stand it. But I got him to watch that fight the other night and how he was like, damn. He was like, I don't like to see women fighting each other and beating each other up. I was like, if you like action, you go past this. All he could do was like, he was on point because he said he had another lady that asked him, what should she fight? This is a big fight. I said, you tell her. I said, hell yes. So when I talk to him next, I want to find out, see what her reaction was because, again, it's been a long time since we actually saw a fight that lived up to its, to all of the hype and all its luster. They deserved everything of it. I think it was a major step for women's boxing. I think to the point where Clarissa Shields, even to a point, said to her, was saying she wished she could find a fight like that. She even said that. I wish I could find somebody that would challenge me like this because I want that fight. So the only thing was, she said, as I get off of this point, she says, I wouldn't have won all like Serrano win. I'd have been cute and pretty, and I'd have won just by being cute without getting hurt.
She said.
Right.
Yeah, you know what? You know what was the other one was Fury and Wilder 3.
Yeah.
You know, that one, all the knockdowns, all the expectations that all Fury was going to do is show up and blow on Wilder and he'd be knocked out. Wilder showing you what he is, showing you guts, character, all those things. So that one is the other one that is undoubtedly up there as the fight of the year.
And the reason I asked the question was pretty simple. To get to the point where we can say, all right, we do this most of the time on a weekly basis. We cover what's happened, what's going to happen, what should happen, what shouldn't happen, blah, 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 in that night. Never have we stated that the best thing we've seen in boxing was a women's fight. Never have we even said the best thing that's possible is a women's fight. I'm curious to see how we would have hyped this last week had we had the show. Because I think we would have done, and I know from my point of view, went, and this is going to happen, blah, 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 and we'll talk about it next week. I don't think we would have went in depth into it because we don't do that, but also because I don't think that's something that we've been prepared to do. Now, John might have a little bit different take on that.
Well, I was going to say, Charles and I have been talking about the fight for weeks, so I think
I don't think we would have said possible fight of the year.
No, that's true.
It
was a 50-50 fight, though. We knew that. That's what made it so interesting. It was
so
what
I think is interesting about the whole thing is that now it's on our radar. Now it's something we can say, let's follow it. If you've never been a fan of golf and Tiger Woods took you by the throat, now you're a fan of golf. And now you're watching Roy McIlroy and Ricky Fowler and whomever else because they're there now. You're drawn into it because someone brought you to the party. That's what I'm hoping has happened here. Yeah, go ahead.
And I say, one more thing. See, but that's not, I hope you're right. But see, when Tiger Woods isn't playing in the golf tournaments, the ratings go down.
Sure.
So that's the thing. I think with Amanda Serrano and Katie Taylor, their ratings are always going to be high now. But when they're not fighting,
but now if you didn't know then, you now know who John Rahm is. You know who Bryson DeChambeau is. Not everybody, but there's that. You've been brought to the party.
You might get some, yeah.
Yeah. So that's hopefully we've brought more people to it. And again, what we've been talking about for the last few years is not, I won't use the phrase again, but boxing needs a spark. It needs a kick in the butt. Whether it's women's, whether it's the celebrity stuff, whatever it is, it needs something. And this could be just that spark. Because now, if you're sitting there with your wife or significant other going, I'm going to watch boxing this weekend. Is it going to be like that fight we watched last week? Maybe. Well, let's get involved. Maybe. Okay, well, I'll watch it. And now maybe they start learning a little more about it. Same with the WNBA, same with the NWSL, that kind of thing. Now there's something for me to like as well. Now I just went down the whole sexist road I didn't want to go down, but it's the idea of now there's something here. So I'm hoping there's something good there. I don't know. Charles has got that cockeyed look at me. It's like, show's over, shut up and go away.
No, it's just, I hear what you're saying, and it's great from that level, but I mean, that fight was so spectacular, it's going to be hard to match it. And, sure. and that's what I'm saying. It would be nice to be able to say, yeah, we're going to expect more people to come in. But like you said, just because you put eyes on it, like you mentioned before, doesn't mean it's great. Because the one thing that's problem with golf, they are so quick to want to make everybody, or they try to make everybody the next Tiger Woods. But where they're finding out that the inconsistencies of these new younger golfers actually poo-poo the play of the sport. So now you really get to see that Tiger Woods, because he went 7 years without missing a cut. That's legendary. You don't see a guy like, well, I won 2 rounds and then I won two matches, and then I turned out now I missed the third one because I missed the cut. But I think that's where it is. So when you put it on the level, like you said there, you still got to deliver. And I always said it from the beginning as my last point about the women's sport, about the WNBA. I think the biggest problem for them is they're trying to grow the sport too much because they want to give everybody equal chance. You know, I used to cover the ABL when it was in Columbus, Ohio. They had 6 teams and they had the best players, and it was great basketball. But the NBA took it over because it was all about the cash. So again, it comes down to having a quality product that people will watch. And that might mean a couple people may not, you know, get that check or whatever. But if you are one of the chosen few, you're going to get paid well. You got to work harder, and you're going to get paid because people want a top-notch product.
And that's where we stand. John, close the show.
Well, that's absolutely true, and that's why it's so hard to do. And as we know, boxing is maddening. And we like you said, Frank, we follow it every week, and it's constantly up and down, mostly down. It is. I'll be the first to admit it. I don't expect Canelo and Bivol to be a great fight. It might be a pretty good fight. I'll say that. But what we just saw last week was pretty stupendous for boxing. And everybody always compares those kind of events to March 8th, 1971. But think about all the comparisons to that night, which haven't even got close. So I just don't think that you're going to see, if you see this again, you might see it to a degree when they fight again because of them. And the key is too, and I like the golf comment, of course, because, you know, I play a little bit of golf sometimes. The thing with Tiger Woods, real fast, Frank, is he's also got something a lot of these guys don't have, is he's got charisma. And so do Amanda Serrano and Katie Taylor. Tiger Woods, as boring as golf is for a lot of people to watch, won't even watch it. It's so boring. I know, and I get it. I know. He's got something, you know. He's like a swashbuckler out there, kind of like Arnold Palmer was. And that might be his home, just like we say with boxers, their best home is in the ring. But he has that extra talent that you want to keep saying this guy's the next whatever. No, Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer, Tiger Woods, Ben Hogan. Those guys are just those one in a generation guys that have all that stuff. And Amanda Serrano wrapping it up, and Katie Taylor were that way for women's boxing. And it shouldn't just be women's; it should be for boxing. But that's why it's going to be so hard moving forward, because the two of them, that word again, the two of them are special. Very much so.
Well, it's been an interesting way of looking at things because they force us to look at it differently. And I think when we talk about special people, that's what they do. So hopefully Canelo makes us look at things differently after this fight and the aftermath of what happens. Because quite frankly, I'm getting tired of going, it's Triple G or nobody. You know, I mean, it's just, to Charles's point, it's like, do we care? You know, do we want to care? We want to see Canelo fight somebody that we've taught. Shut us up. Basically, is what I'm trying to say. Shut us up. Fight Charlo. Fight some Benavidez. Fight some. Just shut us up. But that's not going to happen. So, well, folks, it's been great being back again. I'm glad to have been able to do this. I'm glad you guys are here. Carry me through. Make sure I don't fall asleep again. And we will come back at you next week even stronger. Thank you very much.